1. Introduction to Stoicism. What is Stoicism? Imagine a life where no external event, no insult, no failure, no unexpected disaster has the power to shake your inner peace. A life where you are in complete control of your reactions, your emotions, and your mindset. This isn't some far-fetched fantasy, it's the foundation of Stoicism, an ancient philosophy that has helped countless people master their thoughts and live with purpose. But what exactly is Stoicism? At its core, Stoicism is a way of thinking that teaches people to focus on what they can control and let go of what they cannot. It's not about suppressing emotions or becoming cold-hearted. Rather, it's about mastering oneself in the face of life's challenges. Most people go through life reacting to every little inconvenience, getting angry at traffic, stressing over the opinions of others, or feeling anxious about the future. Stoicism offers an alternative, a mindset that frees you from this emotional roller coaster. By shifting your focus to what truly matters, your actions, your thoughts, and your character, you can build unshakable resilience. The Stoics believed that external events don't disturb us. It's our perception of them that does. If you change the way you see challenges, you change your life. But Stoicism isn't just about mental toughness. It's about living virtuously. The Stoics believed that the highest good in life isn't money, power, or fame. It's living with wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline. In a world obsessed with status and material success, Stoicism is a powerful reminder that true happiness comes from within. No amount of wealth can bring peace to an undisciplined mind, and no setback can break a person who has mastered their emotions. The beauty of Stoicism is that it's not just for scholars or monks, it's for warriors, leaders, and ordinary people navigating daily struggles. From ancient Roman emperors to modern-day athletes and CEOs, many of history's most successful individuals have used Stoic principles to stay focused, overcome adversity, and achieve greatness. And the best part? You don't need to memorize complex philosophical texts to apply Stoicism to your life. A few simple shifts in perspective can make all the difference. So, why does Stoicism still matter today? In a world full of distractions, negativity, and stress, this ancient philosophy is more relevant than ever. It teaches us how to stay calm in chaos, how to turn obstacles into opportunities, and how to find meaning in even the toughest circumstances. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by life, frustrated by things outside your control, or uncertain about your purpose, Stoicism might just be the answer you've been looking for. In this journey, we'll explore the key principles of Stoicism, the daily practices that can transform your mindset, and the way this philosophy can help you navigate modern life. By the end, you'll have the tools to build mental resilience, face challenges with confidence, and ultimately live a life of greater purpose and peace. Ready to dive in? Let's begin. The origins, Zeno and the founding of Stoicism. Our story begins over 2,300 years ago in Athens, where a wealthy merchant named Zeno of Citium found himself shipwrecked, both literally and figuratively. His fortune lost at sea, Zeno wandered into a bookstore and stumbled upon the teachings of Socrates. Intrigued, he sought out the city's great philosophers, desperate to find meaning in his misfortune. Little did he know, this moment of loss would lead to the birth of one of history's most powerful philosophies, Stoicism. Zeno wasn't interested in abstract theories or intellectual debates. He wanted a philosophy that could be applied to real life. So he combined ideas from Socrates, the Cynics, and other thinkers to create a system of thought that focused on self-discipline, rationality, and inner peace. Unlike other schools of philosophy that debated the nature of reality or the meaning of life, Stoicism was practical. It was a guide to navigating the hardships of life with dignity and strength. Zeno began teaching his philosophy in the heart of Athens, not in a grand lecture hall, but in a public space called the Stoa Poikile, a painted porch where people from all walks of life could listen and learn. This open-air setting symbolized the essence of Stoicism. It wasn't meant for a select few, but for anyone seeking wisdom. Over time, his followers became known as Stoics, named after the very place where the philosophy was born. Unlike the Cynics, who rejected all social norms and lived in extreme poverty, Zeno believed that one could engage with society while still maintaining virtue. Stoicism wasn't about abandoning the world, it was about mastering oneself within it. A Stoic could be a farmer, a merchant, or even an emperor, as long as they lived with reason, virtue, and self-control. This adaptability is one of the reasons Stoicism has survived for over 2 millennia. The philosophy spread, evolving with each new generation of thinkers. Later Stoics like Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius refined and expanded Zeno's teachings, applying them to everything from personal hardships to political leadership. Each of them brought a unique perspective. Epictetus, a former slave, focused on the power of the mind over circumstances. Seneca, a wealthy statesman, explored the balance between success and virtue. And Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world, used Stoicism to rule with wisdom and restraint. Zeno's journey began with the loss of his wealth, but he found something far greater, an unshakable philosophy that could withstand any hardship. His teachings remind us that even in our lowest moments, there is an opportunity for growth. Like Zeno, we may not control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond, and that is the true power of Stoicism. Key Stoic thinkers: Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus. Throughout history, 3 names have stood out as the pillars of Stoic philosophy: Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus. Each of them lived vastly different lives. One was an emperor, another a statesman, and the third a former slave, but all of them embodied the core principles of Stoicism. Their writings and teachings have shaped the way we understand resilience, virtue, and the art of mastering one's mind. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king. Imagine ruling over the most powerful empire in the world, with armies at your command and riches beyond measure. Now imagine choosing, despite all this power, to live with humility, self-discipline, and wisdom. That was Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who, instead of indulging in luxury, spent his nights writing down thoughts about self-improvement, patience, and accepting fate. These personal reflections would later become Meditations, one of the most influential philosophy books ever written. Marcus Aurelius didn't just write about Stoicism, he lived it. Faced with endless wars, betrayals, and even personal tragedies, he never allowed external events to dictate his inner state. He reminded himself daily that he could only control his actions, not the actions of others. His leadership wasn't driven by ego, but by virtue, showing the world that true power lies not in ruling over others, but in ruling over oneself. One of his most famous quotes is, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This simple idea encapsulates Stoicism in its purest form. No matter what happens around you, your mind is your fortress. If a man who bore the weight of an empire could maintain his composure, so can we in our daily struggles. Seneca, the wealthy advisor who preached simplicity. Unlike Marcus Aurelius, Seneca wasn't born into leadership. He was a man who climbed the ranks of Roman society, eventually becoming a trusted advisor to Emperor Nero. He amassed great wealth, yet his writings are filled with warnings about greed, ambition, and the fleeting nature of material success. To Seneca, true wealth was not in gold or power, but in a mind free from desires. Despite living in luxury, Seneca practiced what he preached. He regularly subjected himself to discomfort, eating simple meals, sleeping on the floor, just to remind himself that he didn't need luxury to be happy. He believed that if you train yourself to be content with little, you become unshaken by life's uncertainties. One of his greatest lessons was on time. He argued that people guard their money carefully, but waste their time, never realizing that time is the one thing we can never get back. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. For Seneca, living well wasn't about how many years we have, but how wisely we use them. Epictetus, the slave who became a Stoic master. If anyone had an excuse to be bitter about life, it was Epictetus. Born into slavery, he had no freedom, no wealth, and no control over his own fate. Yet, he became one of the greatest Stoic philosophers of all time. His teachings weren't based on theory, but on survival. He understood firsthand that while we can't always control our circumstances, we can always control our mindset. Unlike Marcus Aurelius and Seneca, Epictetus never wrote down his teachings. His wisdom was recorded by his students, particularly in the Discourses and the Enchiridion, short but powerful guides on how to endure hardship, maintain dignity, and focus only on what truly matters. His philosophy was simple. If something is beyond your control, let it go. Your true power lies in how you respond, not in what happens to you. One of his most famous teachings is, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This idea has resonated through the centuries, helping people overcome everything from personal setbacks to life-altering tragedies. If a man who was born into slavery could rise above his circumstances and find peace, so can we. 3 lives, 1 philosophy. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus lived in different worlds, but their teachings remain the same. Control what you can, accept what you cannot, and live virtuously. Whether you're an emperor, a businessman, or someone struggling through daily hardships, Stoicism offers a path to inner peace. Their words weren't meant for scholars alone. They were meant for people like us, navigating the complexities of life. Whether you're dealing with stress, setbacks, the wisdom of these 3 Stoics can serve as a guide. The question is, will you apply it? The core principles of Stoicism, a blueprint for resilience. Stoicism isn't just a philosophy, it's a way of life. It doesn't dwell on abstract theories or endless debates. Instead, it provides a set of clear, practical principles that can be applied to any situation, whether you're dealing with failure, heartbreak, or unexpected hardships. These principles have guided warriors, leaders, and ordinary people for centuries, offering a blueprint for mental resilience. Let's break down the core ideas that make Stoicism such a powerful tool for mastering life. The dichotomy of control, mastering what you can change. At the heart of Stoicism lies a simple but life-changing idea. Some things are within your control, and some things are not. The Stoics believed that suffering often comes from trying to control the uncontrollable, worrying about the opinions of others, stressing over outcomes, or wishing reality were different. But when you shift your focus to what you can control, your actions, thoughts, and responses, you unlock true freedom. Epictetus put it best. Happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within our control, and some things are not. This means that no matter what happens, whether it's a job loss, a relationship ending, or an unexpected challenge, you always have the power to choose how you respond. And that response is where your strength lies. Imagine standing in the middle of a storm. You can't stop the wind from howling or the rain from falling, but you can decide whether to panic or stay calm. The Stoic approach is to focus on securing your shelter, adapting to the conditions, and making the best of the situation. Life is full of storms, but by mastering the dichotomy of control, you become unshakable. Virtue over everything, the true measure of success. In today's world, success is often measured by wealth, status, and power. But the Stoics had a different definition. To them, the only true measure of success was virtue, living with wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline. No amount of money or fame could ever replace the value of a strong moral character. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in history, constantly reminded himself that titles and riches meant nothing compared to being a good person. He believed that if you focused on living virtuously, everything else would fall into place. Stoicism teaches that external achievements are fleeting, but virtue is eternal. It's not about what you have, but who you are. Think about it. What kind of person do you admire the most? Is it the richest person in the room, or the one who remains calm in crisis, helps others selflessly, and stands by their principles? Stoicism challenges us to redefine success, not as something to be gained, but as something to be lived. Perception is reality. How to reframe any situation. The way you see the world determines how you experience it. The Stoics believe that events themselves don't disturb us, our interpretation of them does. This is why 2 people can go through the same hardship, but one remains calm while the other falls apart. The difference isn't in the event, it's in the mindset. Seneca famously said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Often, our minds create unnecessary pain by overthinking, exaggerating problems, or focusing on the negative. But what if, instead of seeing obstacles as problems, you saw them as opportunities? What if, instead of seeing failure as an end, you saw it as a lesson? Reframing your perspective is a superpower. A missed job opportunity isn't a disaster, it's a chance to find a better fit. A breakup isn't the end of happiness, it's the start of personal growth. By shifting how you interpret situations, you gain control over your emotions and reactions. In essence, you rewrite your own story. Memento mori, the power of remembering, you will die. At first, the idea of constantly reminding yourself of death might sound morbid, but to the Stoics, memento mori, remember you must die, wasn't about fear, it was about focus. By acknowledging the brevity of life, they learned to appreciate each moment and make better choices. Most people go through life acting as if they have unlimited time. They procrastinate on their dreams, hold grudges, and waste days on distractions. But when you realize that time is your most precious resource, everything changes. You stop postponing what matters. You cherish your loved ones. You prioritize what truly brings meaning. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." This isn't meant to be depressing. It's meant to be empowering. It's a wake-up call to live fully, love deeply, and pursue what truly matters before it's too late. Amor fati. Why loving your fate makes you unstoppable. Life doesn't always go as planned. The Stoics understood this, but instead of resisting fate, they embraced it. They called this idea amor fati, love of fate. It's the radical acceptance of everything that happens, good or bad, as necessary for your growth. Most people resist hardship. They complain about what they can't change and wish things were different. But the Stoic approach is to embrace reality, not fight it. Every challenge, every setback, every unexpected turn, these are not obstacles, but stepping stones. Everything that happens is part of your path. Nietzsche later adopted this idea, saying, "My formula for greatness in a human being is amor fati, that one wants nothing to be different." When you stop seeing life's difficulties as unfair and start seeing them as fuel for growth, you become truly unstoppable. Stoicism, a roadmap for life. These principles aren't just theories, they are tools for everyday life. The dichotomy of control helps you stay calm in chaos. Virtue gives you a compass for success. Reframing your perception turns problems into possibilities. Memento mori reminds you to make every second count. And amor fati teaches you to embrace, rather than resist, your path. The question isn't whether life will challenge you, it will. The real question is, how will you respond? The Stoics believed that with the right mindset, you can face anything. And by living these principles, you don't just survive, you thrive. Stoicism in daily life, practical ways to apply it. Philosophy isn't meant to be confined to books, it's meant to be lived. The beauty of Stoicism lies in its practicality. It's not just an idea, but a way of being. You don't have to sit in deep meditation for hours or memorize ancient texts to practice Stoicism. It's in the small, everyday choices you make, how you respond to stress, how you treat others, and how you handle setbacks. So how can you incorporate Stoicism into your daily life? Let's explore some simple but powerful practices. Morning reflection. Setting the right mindset for the day. The way you start your day sets the tone for everything that follows. The Stoics knew this, which is why they practiced morning reflection. Marcus Aurelius would wake up and remind himself of what he might face: rude people, unexpected problems, moments of frustration. But instead of dreading these challenges, he saw them as opportunities to practice virtue. A simple way to apply this is to take 5 minutes each morning to ask yourself, what challenges might I face today? How will I choose to respond? What kind of person do I want to be today? By mentally preparing yourself, you take control of your mindset instead of letting the day control you. Instead of being surprised by difficulties, you expect them and handle them with grace. Journaling, a Stoic's most powerful tool. One of the most powerful habits of Stoic thinkers was journaling. Marcus Aurelius's Meditations was essentially his personal journal, filled with reminders and reflections to keep himself grounded. Seneca and Epictetus also encouraged writing as a way to sharpen the mind and improve self-awareness. You don't need to write pages of deep philosophical insights. Just a few sentences each day can help. Try writing about a situation that challenged you and how you responded, a mistake you made and what you learned. Something beyond your control that you're choosing to accept. By reflecting on your thoughts and actions, you become more mindful and intentional in how you live. Your journal becomes a tool for self-improvement, a way to refine your thinking, and a record of your personal growth. Practicing voluntary discomfort, training for hardship. Most people avoid discomfort at all costs, but the Stoics actively sought it out. Seneca, despite his wealth, would deliberately sleep on the floor and eat plain food to remind himself that he didn't need luxury to be happy. Epictetus, who had once been a slave, taught that enduring discomfort was the best way to build resilience. You don't have to live like a monk, but small acts of voluntary discomfort can strengthen your mind. Try taking a cold shower instead of a warm one, fasting for a few hours longer than usual, walking instead of driving to a destination. By choosing discomfort in small ways, you train yourself to handle bigger hardships with ease. You learn that you don't need external comforts to be happy, and that true strength comes from within. Turning obstacles into opportunities. The Stoics had a radical mindset. Obstacles aren't setbacks, they're fuel for growth. Marcus Aurelius famously said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, every challenge is an opportunity to practice virtue. If someone insults you, it's an opportunity to practice patience. If a plan fails, it's an opportunity to practice adaptability. If life throws a setback at you, it's an opportunity to practice resilience. This mindset shift is life-changing. Instead of resisting difficulties, you welcome them as training for your mind. You stop seeing problems as reasons to complain and start seeing them as reasons to improve. Evening reflection, reviewing the day. Just as the Stoics started their mornings with reflection, they ended their days with it too. Seneca would review his actions each night, asking himself, "Where did I succeed in practicing virtue today? Where did I fall short, and how can I improve? What did I learn from today's experiences?" This practice isn't about self-criticism, it's about growth. By taking time to reflect, you ensure that each day makes you a little wiser, a little stronger, and a little better than the day before. Living stoically, a daily commitment. Stoicism isn't about being emotionless or indifferent. It's about living with wisdom, courage, justice, and discipline. It's about controlling your reactions, embracing challenges, and focusing on what truly matters. The real question isn't whether Stoicism works. It has stood the test of time. The real question is, will you apply it? Because Stoicism isn't learned through reading alone. It's learned through action. And the moment you start applying these principles to your daily life, you'll begin to experience their power firsthand. Stoicism and emotional resilience. Mastering your inner world. Life is unpredictable. One moment, everything seems fine, and the next, you're facing disappointment, stress, or even heartbreak. Most people let their emotions dictate their actions. Anger leads to rash decisions, fear leads to inaction, and sadness leads to despair. But Stoicism offers a different approach. Instead of being controlled by emotions, Stoics learn to master them. They don't suppress feelings, but they don't let them take over either. So how can you build emotional resilience the Stoic way? Understanding emotions, the Stoic perspective. Stoics never said that emotions are bad. In fact, they believed that emotions are natural. Feeling angry, sad, or frustrated isn't the problem. The problem is how we react to these emotions. Most suffering comes not from the emotions themselves, but from our inability to handle them wisely. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This means that no matter what happens, you always have a choice. Will you let your emotions control you, or will you control them? For example, if someone insults you, your first reaction might be anger. But the Stoic approach is to pause and ask, is this worth my peace of mind? Is my reaction helping me or harming me? Most of the time, you'll realize that reacting emotionally only gives power to the other person. By choosing self-control, you remain in charge of yourself. The pause, creating space between emotion and action. One of the simplest but most powerful Stoic techniques is the pause. When you feel a strong emotion rising, whether it's anger, anxiety, or sadness, don't react immediately. Instead, take a breath, step back, and observe your thoughts. Seneca advised, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." This applies to all emotions. By pausing, you break the automatic cycle of reaction. You give yourself a moment to think, what is the best response here? You regain control instead of being a slave to your emotions. This small habit can transform your life. It prevents unnecessary arguments, reduces stress, and helps you make better decisions. The next time something upsets you, try this. Pause, take a deep breath, and remind yourself, I control my response. Reframing, changing the meaning of events. Another powerful Stoic tool is reframing, changing the way you interpret a situation. The event itself doesn't cause suffering. it's the meaning you attach to it. By shifting your perspective, you change your experience. For example, imagine you lose your job. A common reaction might be despair. This is terrible. My life is ruined. But a Stoic would reframe the situation. This is an opportunity. Now I have a chance to explore something better. The event hasn't changed, only the mindset has. Epictetus taught, men are disturbed not by things, but by the view they take of them. This means that suffering is often a choice. By choosing a better interpretation, you change how you feel. The next time something bad happens, ask yourself, is there another way to see this? You might be surprised by how much power you have over your own experience. Negative visualization. Preparing for the worst. One of the most misunderstood Stoic practices is negative visualization, mentally preparing for worst-case scenarios. At first, this might sound pessimistic, but in reality, it's a tool for emotional strength. The Stoics would regularly imagine losing their possessions, facing hardships, or even their own death. Not because they wanted bad things to happen, but because by facing their fears in advance, they became less afraid. If you've already prepared for the worst, then when difficulties come, they don't shock you. Seneca put it this way: he robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming. If you're ready for hardship, it loses its power over you. Try it. Think of something you fear, then imagine how you would handle it. This practice builds resilience and makes you more adaptable to life's uncertainties. Practicing equanimity, remaining steady in all circumstances. A true Stoic remains calm whether they're facing success or failure, praise or criticism, comfort or hardship. They don't let external events dictate their inner state. This quality is called equanimity, a steady mind that isn't shaken by life's ups and downs. Marcus Aurelius compared life to a storm. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The storm may rage outside, but you can remain calm inside. How do you practice this? When something good happens, don't get overly attached. Everything is temporary. When something bad happens, don't let it break you. Everything is temporary. Focus on what you can control and accept the rest with grace. By practicing equanimity, you become like a rock in the ocean. No matter how strong the waves crash, you remain grounded. The ultimate freedom. Owning your reactions. At the core of Stoic emotional resilience is this truth: no one can control your emotions except you. External events may challenge you, but your inner world is yours alone. When you master your reactions, you become truly free. Imagine going through life where nothing disturbs your peace. No insult, no failure, no hardship. This isn't impossible. It's a skill that Stoicism teaches. The world may try to shake you, but with the right mindset, you remain unshaken. So the next time life tests you, remember, the power is yours. The question is, will you use it? Stoicism in relationships, navigating love, friendship, and conflict. Stoicism is often thought of as a philosophy of solitude, but in reality, it provides profound wisdom for relationships. Whether it's love, friendship, or dealing with difficult people, Stoicism teaches us how to navigate human connections with wisdom, patience, and inner peace. Relationships are one of life's greatest joys, but they can also be a source of pain. Expectations, misunderstandings, and disappointments are inevitable. The Stoic approach helps us build deeper, healthier relationships while protecting our inner tranquility. Loving without attachment, the Stoic approach to relationships. The Stoics believed in loving deeply but without attachment. This doesn't mean being cold or indifferent. It means understanding that everything in life, including relationships, is temporary. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with all your heart, but never allow it to disturb your peace." Most people suffer in relationships because they cling too tightly. They fear losing their partner, they expect constant validation, or they believe another person is responsible for their happiness. But Stoicism teaches that true love isn't about possession or control. It's about appreciation. You love someone not because they belong to you, but because their presence enriches your life. This mindset leads to stronger relationships. When you love without attachment, you don't suffocate the other person with expectations. You enjoy every moment with them fully, but if life takes them in another direction, you don't fall into despair. You remain grateful for what you had, rather than mourning what you lost. Friendship and the power of virtue. The Stoics saw friendship as a bond based on virtue, not convenience or personal gain. Seneca believed that a true friend was not just someone to have fun with, but someone who made you better, a person who challenged you to grow, who was honest even when the truth was hard to hear, and who stood by you in difficult times. In modern life, friendships are often shallow, based on shared interests, entertainment, or social status. But Stoicism teaches that real friendship is built on character. Ask yourself, do my friends encourage me to be a better person? Am I the kind of friend who helps others grow? Do I value depth over superficial connections? By focusing on virtue in friendships, you naturally attract people who share your values. These are the friendships that stand the test of time, the ones that bring meaning, not just momentary pleasure. Dealing with difficult people. The Stoic strategy. No matter how wise or kind you are, you will encounter difficult people. Rude coworkers, selfish family members, or people who criticize you unfairly. The Stoics mastered the art of dealing with such individuals without losing their peace of mind. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, today I shall meet people who are meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly, but I cannot be harmed by them. Here's the Stoic strategy for handling difficult people. 1. Expect it. Don't be shocked when people act irrationally, it's part of life. 2. Don't take it personally. Their behavior is a reflection of them, not you. 3. Control your response. You can't control how they act, but you can control how you react. 4. Lead by example. Show patience and wisdom, even when others don't. By following this approach, you stop letting others dictate your mood. You become immune to insults, unaffected by negativity, and grounded in your own principles. Arguments and conflict. Winning without fighting. Arguments are inevitable, but Stoicism teaches that most of them are unnecessary. Often, we argue not because we need to, but because our ego demands it. We want to prove we're right, defend our pride, or get the last word. The Stoic approach is to ask, is this argument worth my peace? Seneca advised, a quarrel is quickly ended when one side withdraws. This doesn't mean letting people walk over you. It means choosing your battles wisely. If an argument doesn't serve a real purpose, walking away is often the smartest choice. However, when conflict is necessary, Stoicism teaches to handle it with logic, not emotion. Instead of reacting impulsively, pause and ask, what's the real issue here? Am I arguing to seek truth or just to win? Can I resolve this with patience and wisdom instead of anger? By mastering your emotions in conflicts, you gain the ultimate advantage. While others get lost in frustration, you remain clear-headed and effective. Forgiveness and letting go. One of the hardest but most powerful Stoic practices is forgiveness. Many people carry anger and resentment for years, but the Stoics saw this as self-inflicted suffering. Epictetus said, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. Holding on to anger doesn't hurt the other person, it only hurts you. Forgiveness in Stoicism isn't about excusing bad behavior, it's about freeing yourself from unnecessary suffering. When you forgive, you don't let the other person win. You reclaim your peace. Ask yourself, is this anger helping me, or is it poisoning my mind? By letting go of resentment, you lighten your emotional burden. You stop allowing the past to control your present. Love, friendship, and freedom. At its core, Stoicism teaches that relationships should be based on virtue, not neediness. Love without attachment, seek friends who uplift you, handle difficult people with grace, and let go of unnecessary conflict. The Stoic approach doesn't make you cold, it makes you strong. When you master Stoicism in relationships, you stop relying on others for your happiness. Instead, you bring your own peace into every connection. And that kind of inner strength creates the deepest, most fulfilling relationships of all. Stoicism and Adversity, turning hardship into strength. Life is full of hardship. You will face failures, losses, disappointments, and unexpected challenges. But what if these difficulties weren't obstacles but opportunities? The Stoics believed that adversity isn't something to fear, it's something to use. Every challenge is a chance to grow stronger, wiser, and more resilient. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Stoicism teaches you to ask, how can I use this? The obstacle becomes the way. Marcus Aurelius wrote one of the most powerful Stoic principles. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This means that obstacles aren't roadblocks, they are the path forward. Think about history's greatest figures: Nelson Mandela, Thomas Edison, Helen Keller. They didn't succeed despite adversity, they succeeded because of it. They used every hardship as fuel to grow. A Stoic doesn't complain about difficulties, they welcome them as training. The next time you face a setback, ask yourself, how can this situation make me better? What lesson is hidden in this challenge? How can I turn this difficulty into an advantage? By shifting your mindset, you stop seeing problems as things that hold you back. Instead, they become the very things that push you forward. Amor fati, loving your fate, no matter what the Stoics had a phrase. Amor fati, love of fate. This means not just accepting what happens, but embracing it as necessary for your growth. Instead of wishing things were different, a Stoic sees every event, even painful ones, as part of a greater plan. Imagine two people lose their jobs. One spirals into self-pity, blaming the world for their misfortune. The other sees it as an opportunity, a chance to find something better, to reinvent themselves. The event is the same, but the attitude changes everything. Seneca said, "A good person dyes events with his own color and turns whatever happens to his own benefit." Life won't always go the way you want, but Stoicism teaches that you can want whatever life gives you. The more you embrace amor fati, the more unbreakable you become. Practicing voluntary hardship, preparing for tough times. Most people avoid discomfort, but the Stoics trained for hardship. Seneca, one of Rome's richest men, would sleep on the floor and eat simple meals for days at a time. Not because he had to, but because he wanted to prove to himself that he didn't need luxury to be happy. This practice, called voluntary discomfort, helps you prepare for the worst before it happens. By occasionally going without comfort, you remind yourself that you're stronger than you think. Here are some ways to practice this today. Take a cold shower instead of a warm one. Fast for a few extra hours. Walk instead of taking a car or bus. Sleep on the floor for a night. These small challenges build mental toughness. When real hardship comes, you won't panic. You'll already be prepared. Control what you can, accept what you can't. At the core of Stoicism is the understanding that some things are within your control, and some things are not. Epictetus put it simply, happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within our power, and some things are not. When adversity strikes, most people waste energy on things they can't control, complaining about bad luck, blaming others, wishing things were different. But Stoics focus on what they can control: their mindset, their actions, their attitude. If you lose a job, you can't control the past, but you can control how you respond. If someone betrays you, you can't change their actions, but you can control whether you hold on to anger. The moment you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, you free yourself from unnecessary suffering. Resilience through perspective. This too shall pass. One of the most powerful Stoic tools is perspective. No matter how bad things seem, they are temporary. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself constantly that everything passes, both joy and suffering. The Roman Empire itself, which seemed invincible in his time, would one day fall. Nothing lasts forever, so why let a temporary problem destroy your peace? When you face hardship, remind yourself, this moment is tough, but it will pass. I've survived worse before. A year from now, this will be just a memory. By zooming out and seeing the bigger picture, you gain strength. You stop getting lost in the temporary storm and focus on the unshakable truth. You will overcome this. The strength you gain from adversity. Adversity isn't something to avoid, it's something to embrace. Every hardship you face is shaping you into a stronger, wiser person. When you stop seeing challenges as enemies and start seeing them as teachers, life transforms. The Stoics knew that true power doesn't come from an easy life. It comes from hardship, from struggle, from overcoming. And the more you practice these Stoic principles, the more resilient, adaptable, and unstoppable you become. So the next time life tests you, remember, the obstacle is the way. The question is, will you rise to the challenge? Stoicism and the art of living, finding meaning and purpose. Life is short. The Stoics knew this better than anyone, and that's why they focus not on chasing wealth, fame, or pleasure, but on how to live well. What does it mean to live a good life? Is it about success, happiness, legacy? The Stoics had a clear answer. A good life is one lived with virtue, wisdom, and purpose. When you live according to these principles, you don't just exist, you thrive. Memento mori, remembering death to live fully. One of the most striking Stoic practices is memento mori, the reminder that one day you will die. At first, this might sound morbid, but the Stoics saw it as a tool for living better. When you accept the reality of death, you stop wasting time on meaningless things. You focus on what truly matters. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." Imagine if you lived each day knowing it could be your last. Would you still procrastinate on your dreams? Would you still waste time on petty arguments? Or would you make every moment count? Try this. Every morning, remind yourself, "I am alive today, but nothing is guaranteed." Let this guide your actions. Live fully, love deeply, and don't postpone happiness for someday. The 4 Stoic virtues, the blueprint for a good life. The Stoics believe that true happiness comes from virtue, not external success. They define 4 key virtues that lead to a meaningful life. 1. Wisdom, seeing the world clearly and making good decisions. 2. Courage, facing fear, pain, and hardship with strength. 3. Justice, treating others fairly and doing what is right. 4. Temperance, practicing self-control and balance. Ask yourself, am I making wise choices? Do I act with courage, even when it's hard? Am I treating people with fairness and integrity? Do I control my desires, or do they control me? By practicing these virtues, you align yourself with the Stoic ideal of a life well lived. The happiness trap. Why pleasure isn't the goal. Most people chase happiness in the form of pleasure, money, status, entertainment. But the Stoics warn that this pursuit is a trap. Pleasure is temporary. It fades, and when it's gone, you're left wanting more. This endless cycle creates anxiety and dissatisfaction. Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Instead of chasing pleasure, the Stoics focused on something deeper: contentment. Contentment isn't about constant joy. It's about inner peace. It's the ability to remain calm and fulfilled, no matter what happens. To practice this, shift your mindset. Instead of asking, "Does this make me happy?" ask, "Does this make me better?" Instead of chasing comfort, embrace challenges. Instead of seeking pleasure, seek purpose. True fulfillment doesn't come from external success. It comes from who you become. The power of purpose, finding your role in the universe. The Stoics believe that everyone has a role to play in the grand scheme of things. Marcus Aurelius compared life to a giant play. Some are kings, some are farmers, some are warriors. The key is not what role you have, but how you play it. If you perform your role with excellence and integrity, your life has meaning. Epictetus put it simply, "Don't seek for everything to happen as you wish it would, but rather wish that everything happens as it actually will. Then your life will flow well." This means accepting your circumstances and making the best of them. Instead of complaining about where life has placed you, ask, "How can I serve? How can I contribute?" Purpose isn't something you find. It's something you create by fully embracing your role, living each day as a masterpiece. Imagine if every action, every word, every decision was a brushstroke on the painting of your life. Would you rush through it carelessly, or would you make it a masterpiece? The Stoics believed that every day is an opportunity to create something beautiful, not through wealth or fame, but through the way you live. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." Instead of just thinking about how to live well, start living well. Act with wisdom, treat others with kindness, embrace challenges, and make the most of the time you have. The ultimate Stoic mindset: accept, adapt, act. At the heart of Stoicism is a simple formula for life. 1. Accept what you cannot control. Don't waste energy on things outside your power. 2. Adapt to what happens. Use every situation, good or bad, as fuel for growth. 3. Act with virtue. Make every decision based on wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. When you live this way, you stop fearing the future. You stop regretting the past. You exist fully in the present, doing your best with what you have. And that is the true art of living. So as you move forward, ask yourself, am I truly living or just existing? The choice is yours. Stoicism and emotional mastery, controlling your mind in a chaotic world. In a world full of chaos, stress, and uncertainty, emotions can feel like an unstoppable force. Anger flares up, anxiety takes over, sadness lingers. But what if you could remain calm and unshaken no matter what happens? The Stoics mastered emotional control, not by suppressing feelings, but by understanding and mastering them. They believe that true freedom comes not from controlling the world, but from controlling your mind. You are not your emotions. Most people think their emotions define them. I am angry, I am anxious, I am depressed. But the Stoics taught that emotions are temporary states, not who you are. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Imagine you are standing on the side of a road, watching cars pass by. Each car is an emotion: anger, fear, sadness. Most people chase the cars, running after their emotions. But a Stoic simply observes them. You don't have to get in the car. You don't have to be dragged along. You can just watch and let them pass. Try this. The next time a strong emotion arises, don't react. Observe. Say to yourself, "I notice anger is present," or "I see anxiety arising." The moment you step back and see your emotion as something separate from you, it loses its grip. The power of perception. How thoughts shape feelings. The Stoics believe that emotions don't come from events, but from our thoughts about events. If someone insults you, the words themselves don't create anger. It's your interpretation that does. If you see it as an attack, you get mad. But if you see it as unimportant, you stay calm. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This means you have ultimate control over your emotions, because you control your thoughts. Ask yourself, is this situation really as bad as my mind is making it seem? Am I assuming the worst, or is there another perspective? If this were happening to someone else, what advice would I give them? By shifting your perception, you shift your emotions. You take power away from negativity and replace it with rationality. Controlling anger. The Stoic pause, anger is one of the most destructive emotions. It makes people say things they regret, act impulsively, and create unnecessary conflict. But the Stoics had a simple but powerful tool, the pause. Seneca advised, "The best remedy for anger is delay." When anger rises, don't react immediately. Take a deep breath, count to 10. Step outside. Ask yourself, will this matter in a week? A year? The moment you create distance, the emotion loses its control over you. Another Stoic technique is viewing anger from above. Imagine looking down on Earth from space. From that vast perspective, does this small moment really matter? The bigger your perspective, the smaller your problems become. Overcoming anxiety. Preparing for the worst, hoping for the best. Anxiety is fear of the unknown, worrying about what might happen. The Stoics had a counterintuitive way of handling this. They imagined the worst-case scenario and mentally prepared for it. Seneca called this premeditatio malorum, the practice of envisioning worst-case outcomes. But this wasn't done to create fear. It was done to remove fear. If you already accept the worst, nothing can shake you. Try this. If you're anxious about something, ask yourself, what's the absolute worst that could happen? How would I handle it? Could I still survive and move forward? Most of the time you'll realize the worst-case scenario isn't as bad as your mind makes it seem. And once you accept it, anxiety loses its power. Sadness and loss. Letting go without suffering. Loss is inevitable. You will lose people, opportunities, time. But suffering over loss comes from attachment. The Stoics believe that everything in life is borrowed. Nothing truly belongs to us. If you love something, appreciate it fully, but be ready to let it go when the time comes. Epictetus said, when you kiss your child goodnight, whisper to yourself, "They are not mine. They are merely on loan." This may sound harsh, but it doesn't mean you love less. It means you love wisely. You cherish every moment without clinging. If you're grieving or feeling lost, remind yourself, everything in life is temporary. Cherish it while it lasts. Loss isn't the end, it's just change. Gratitude is the antidote to sorrow. Focus on what you had, not what you lost. By practicing non-attachment, you don't stop loving, you stop suffering from love. The Stoic mindset, becoming unshakable. Emotional mastery doesn't mean feeling nothing, it means feeling everything without being controlled by it. The Stoics didn't avoid emotions, they understood them, managed them, and used them. To summarize, 1. You are not your emotions. Observe them. Don't be controlled by them. 2. Your thoughts shape your feelings. Change your perception, and your emotions will follow. 3. Anger can be defeated with patience. Pause before reacting. View it from above. 4. Anxiety loses power when you prepare for the worst. Accept it, and it can't control you. 5. Sadness comes from attachment. Love deeply, but be ready to let go. When you master your emotions, you master your life. No matter what happens around you, your mind remains your fortress, calm, strong, unshaken. So the next time emotions threaten to take over, ask yourself, who is in control, my feelings or me? The answer will define the life you live.